Welcome back to this channel, everyone. It's your resident internet psychic medium and spiritual advisor, Mr. Gray, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to go over how to develop your psychic and intuitive abilities. So let's start working on those gifts. And the reason why I have leaned this way is because I get a lot of questions, and the questions usually involve someone saying something along the lines of, how do I do that, right? And I could be talking about anything. I could be talking about dispelling limiting beliefs, right? Manifestation, abundance, and people are saying, but like, how do I do that? And what I realize is that so many people are engaging in spiritual practices and spiritual ceremony, but they're not necessarily doing it from the lens of a psychic perspective, right? An intuitive perspective. And I'm starting to observe that this makes it a little bit more difficult for people to really sort of get into the craft because they're working with energies, but have a hard time understanding the energies that they're actually working with. So this is now us going back to the fundamentals. I am bringing you back to the basics. We are going to learn how to develop those skills in order for you to have better spiritual practices because you will understand the energies that you're working with. So the first thing that I need to clarify is what it means to be a psychic. What is a psychic ability? A psychic is just someone that is very intuitive. They are super intuitive. They have chosen to actively hone their intuition. They work with their intuition on an active basis as opposed to more passively, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of people will sometimes resonate with the saying of like a gut feeling, right? But it's fleeting and it comes every once in a while. You don't always have a gut feeling, right? You just kind of wait for it to show up. Whereas a psychic is always working with the gut, that gut feeling. They're harnessing that gut feeling. They are learning what it feels like to have a gut feeling, and then they are then learning how to then duplicate the feeling. When they are coming across certain situations, certain people, or they want to know a certain answer to something, they then lean on that gut feeling by activating it in order to download whatever information it is that they're actually trying to download. Being psychic also means just someone who is super tapped in intuitively to the world around them. And so another question that I usually get is, well, what's going to happen if I develop my psychic abilities? Like, what am I opening up? Am I opening up a portal, right? And the truth is, I used to believe that there were portals that I would open, right? And I was so afraid in the very beginning of my journey that something bad was going to come out, that there was going to be a boogeyman in the closet that was going to be jumping out, scaring me, and that there was something there on the other side. But the truth of the matter is, when you harness your psychic abilities, what ends up happening is that you end up perceiving the world that already exists. Except for right now, you don't actually have an ability to perceive it. So when you start opening your abilities and you start to pick up on new things, see new things, perceive new things, those things were already there. They're not new things. It's not new phenomena. It's just things that were already present. You then have an ability to perceive. And when you perceive something, then you have an ability to sort of know that it's a truth or that it's a fact for you. And then you then have an ability to then work with it, influence it, right? Which is like working with energy, for example. If you understand that it's there, if you know exactly where it is in the room, if you then understand how to maybe manipulate or control the energy because you understand how to identify it. Prior to being able to perceive the world that already exists, because it does, right? There's not a new world that opens, except that it may feel new for you because it's different. It's a different form of perception. It's still the same world though, right? Because of that, then it may feel in the beginning like it's novel and that it's different, and for some people inspiring. For me, when I was then able to see it, it felt very magical, being able to see things that other people couldn't see or sense or identify with, right? And by doing that, doing it often, practicing that, then you can then work with it. And having a psychic ability is having a skill. Like with many skills, if you don't use it, you lose it. And it's a skill that does require constant attention, constant development, constantly working with, because sometimes what happens is if you're not working within your psychic ability, then you forget sort of how to turn it on and off when you want to turn it on and off, right? If you want to stay in control of it, then it's good to know the practice of it, the steps of it, how to like turn the light switch on and off for, so to speak. Now, there will be most likely two people, right? That'll gravitate to things like this. It'll be either someone who is just super into the metaphysical and want to know more about it and want to engage. But then there's another group of people, which was the group that I fell into, who may have it naturally, may notice that maybe the switch is usually on, and they are more concerned with trying to understand how to close that gap, how to turn the switch off, right? Where you may be perceiving things that maybe you don't want to perceive. Because you don't have any explanations for it, because there's no one that you can go to that can teach you about what it is that you're experiencing, because the energy is so different than the energy that we experience in the physical world, it may seem really overwhelming for you. And so that is just not something you want to engage with, because you don't know how to engage with it in a way that feels empowering, right? So a lot of times for people, they can come into this and it's a very disempowering transition because there is a lack of information, a lack of knowledge, and a lack of expertise or skill set in terms of how to deal with and work with what you are perceiving. So for our first lesson, what we're going to do, and this is like nearly the beginning of almost all psychic development spiritual lessons, is that we are going to learn how to ground. That is step one. A lot of times what I've observed is that when people come into their psychic development, they go straight to protection. And I get it, right? Because the thing is, I need to protect myself from whatever's out there, whatever this portal is that I'm about to open. I need to protect myself from that. There could be ghouls and goblins in there, and I have no idea what's going on. Well, first of all, there aren't any ghouls and goblins. You know, I hate to burst your bubble when it comes to that. I mean, unless you want to create a ghoul or a goblin, but I don't really understand why anybody would want to do that, but like, whatever. It's all a possibility. You do you, okay? But there aren't traditionally any ghouls or goblins that are lurking in somebody's closet, right? But protection also isn't useful if you don't actually understand how to ground. So in my opinion, grounding is step one, and that's going to be what we're going to start with, right? So grounding means becoming present and stable in your own energy field and your own energetic body and the you, right? It is about making sure that you are here and now, that you are present, and that your energy is tethered to the earth, right? That you want to almost visualize that there is a light beam, a divine light beam that is connecting you to the cosmos, to the heavens, and then also connecting you all the way to the core of the earth, not the surface, the core. You want to be anchored. It's a way of anchoring you. And the reason why this is a very important practice is because once you start opening up your gifts and your abilities, you will have an ability to then perceive things that are outside of your own energetic field. And if you don't yet have an understanding of how to control your own energetic field or decipher between what is other and what is you, then when you start to open up and you start to perceive all of these things, it can be overwhelming. And when I mean overwhelming, I don't mean like it's scary. I just literally mean it's overwhelming. For some people, suddenly they start seeing colors in places that most people cannot see colors. If you're clairaudient, you can start hearing things that most people cannot hear, right? Seeing things that most people cannot see. And by seeing things, it's not necessarily always about seeing spirit, right? It could just be energetic body, energetic sort of bodies or energetic manifestations, right? For example, I can see auras around televisions, right? Which even people that are not super tapped into their psychic ability can see, but I can see the energy that comes out of plugs and the energy that comes out of cell phones and TVs and anything that has energy to run. I can see that, and I see it in waves, right? And some of it's more intense than others, right? And so when you're opening up, suddenly the world just looks different. And if you don't have a solid grasp on you and your energy and where your energy is, then sometimes what can happen is that people can misunderstand the world's energy, things that are happening outside of them, things that are simply things that they're observing, as to things that may be happening to them or things that may be impacting them, right? This is also the first step. Grounding is the first step of establishing your psychic boundaries, right? This is my energy and that is that energy. And understanding who you are and where you are at all times and whatever is going on over there. Grounding is about being grounded, literally, and being centered, being anchored in your body, being anchored in your presence, and even being anchored or tethered to this earth, right? Because when you start working on your abilities and it opens up the ability to perceive, you can end up all over the place, particularly if you are a channel, right? If you are communicating with higher beings, your spirit may be floating around in different aspects and different planes when we still live and exist in the current reality, and we need to make sure that we are tethered to our reality. A lot of psychics don't necessarily practice grounding. They're not necessarily tethered, and so they can seem a little all over the place, just kind of out there, right? If you want to just be regular and down to earth, you're going to learn how to ground to the earth. So outside of that sort of that line, that divine light beam that's coming down from the heavens or the cosmos and into the earth, connecting to its core, another technique that you can use in order to ground is sort of like the tree trunk technique. So you can do this by doing a meditative session, right? And this can be going deep into a meditation or taking a moment to sort of close your eyes and take a few deep breaths, right? That get you into your current center. And what you're going to do is visualize. And if you don't have an ability to see in sort of your mind's eye, because not everybody has that ability, you are going to imagine what it would feel like. So either you are going to be visualizing or you are going to be feeling, right? Or thinking of a concept, because not everyone can put themselves into the feeling either, thinking of a concept that will help this fall into alignment for you, this idea that I'm about to share. And what you want to visualize or feel or conceptualize is that the bottom portion of your body, so starting with your root chakra, which is at the base of your spine, so your hips, your legs, that part of your body, your feet, picture it turning almost into a trunk, a tree trunk, or picture roots of a tree trunk growing down from that area of your body. And you want those roots to sort of penetrate the soil, penetrate the dirt, and then just crawl through the ground and make those roots go as far down, as deep as they can go. If there's something that you can visualize, that you can think of, that you can imagine that's down in the ground below, that it can sort of wrap around, it can wrap the roots around, what you're going to do is get a good hold on that ground. And you're going to make sure that you're anchored in, just like how a tree anchors itself. And you want to visualize, imagine, or conceptualize that you are so anchored that it's like a tree in Florida during a hurricane. That baby is not moving, okay? That's how deep that you want to be when you are picturing yourself grounding. You want to be grounded to the earth itself. Energy is its most stable when it's grounding. That's why when you have an electrician come to your house and they're doing electrical work on the wiring, what do they always talk about? They talk about grounding in the electricity, because if you don't ground it, you'll start a fire, right? It's the same thing. If you want to be solid and stable in your energy work as you're practicing your psychic abilities, you want to make sure that you are grounded. Now, how long should this take? It should take as long as you feel like it is appropriate for you. For some people, it can take a minute, right? It's as fast as them thinking about wanting to ground. The roots shoot out of their body and then they're done. Some people, it may be 5 minutes. Some people, it may take an hour. In the beginning of my practice, when I would do my meditation, I would a lot of the times do my meditations for about 45 minutes to an hour. It was a whole day event, okay, in order to be able to get there. But for some people, it may take 15, 20 minutes. But just know that once you feel grounded, let's say you're doing 20 minutes, once you feel grounded, and let's say it takes you 19 minutes to get there, right? You don't have to then sit in your grounding for another 19 minutes to make it stick, right? Once you feel that your hooks are in, you're done. And then you can move on to the next step. So, in order to wrap this video here, step 1 of developing your psychic abilities is called grounding. That is also the beginning of you establishing your psychic boundaries between you and your energy and the other. I hope this video is helpful. As always, if you like what you see, please subscribe to this channel. And if we don't meet again, I'll see you next lifetime.